Thank you so much for coming to the first Carla presentation this semester. My name is Kate Paisani and I work at Carla. So we are thrilled to welcome back Meg Malone and Celia Chamon Zamora, who are joining us from ACTFL. Meg and Celia are the co-leaders of Carla's Practical Program Evaluation Initiative. And Meg is the Director of Assessment and Research at ACTFL, and Celia is the Director of Professional Learning and Certification at ACTFL. And the title of their webinar is A Brief Introduction to Language Program Evaluation, Facts, Myths, and Resources. So take it away, Meg and Celia.
Thank you so much, Kate, and thank you so much, Carla, for having us here today. We're so excited to be with you all. And I really do want to emphasize the brief introduction part because, as you know, this is a very brief webinar just to kind of give you a brief introduction of this. So if you're really interested in all the things that we have to say, we would love to invite you towards the end so that you can see where our summer seminar will be. Before we begin, we'd like to start off with an Indigenous land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge the ancestral and traditional owners of the land from which we are presenting today, Alexandria, Virginia, and their neighbors as the Anacostan, Piscataway, and Pamunkey peoples. Through this acknowledgement, we recognize Indigenous sovereignty, history, and experiences. We affirm our commitment to focus on and amplify Indigenous voices to work towards ongoing action and relationship through education. We would like to pay our respects to the elders, both past and present. So a brief agenda of what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to basically center ourselves to show you why we feel compelled to talk about program evaluation. So basically a quick introduction to Meg and myself. And then we're going to talk about briefly what ACTFL is, and then go into a brief program evaluation intro, and then get into the heart of it, which is looking at facts, myths, and resources for program evaluation. And then we'll talk a little bit about our Carla Summer Institute for this year, and then we'll open it up to any questions. So in case you don't know who Meg and myself are, Kate has already introduced us as Dr. Meg Malone, who is the Director of Assessment and Research at ACTFL, and then myself, the Director of Professional Learning and Certification. One of us apparently always wears pink, and the other one keeps me balanced. So essentially, we are both Georgetown graduates, Go Hoyas. We're language learners and advocates, absolutely. We're methodology mavens, and we both are really well-versed in both applied and research in program evaluations. We have done a lot of analysis of it. We have helped others do their program evaluations. And in fact, this whole institute came about because we were constantly approached to look at programs, to help programs, evaluate their own programs. But what we've seen is that program evaluations can sometimes be something that's not budgeted for, or that can be something costly. However, we started talking and realized that if we teach others how to do their own program evaluations, or how to really at least start the steps, this is something that everyone, no matter how small or big or less commonly taught your language program is, everyone can evaluate their own program, and it's something to help each program grow. And with this, we have almost 50 years combined, very important word, experience in language teaching, test development, program evaluation, and professional development. And with that, I will turn it over to Meg.
Hi, everybody. It's so nice to see you here. Both Celia and I are very proud ACTFL leaders. And just to give a little overview of ACTFL, I'm sure many of you are familiar with us. Our mission is to provide vision, leadership, and support for quality teaching and learning of languages. And language program evaluation is a huge part of providing support and leadership in quality learning and teaching of languages. And then a little bit about ACTFL's vision. A vision is something that we want to have happen. It doesn't mean it's the world as it is everywhere at this moment. And we envision an interconnected world where everyone benefits from and values a multilingual and multicultural education. A little bit more about ACTFL. We have members all the way from pre-K through higher ed, government, industry, community, not-for-profit sectors. We represent all 50 states plus DC and US territories. Got to make sure to mention DC since I can practically see it from my window here in Alexandria. 50 or more countries across the globe, and 60 plus languages from Afrikaans to Yoruba. We'd really love to get a Z language in there, not just to represent all the important Zs of the world like Celia, but so that we can say we have languages A to Z. And then a little bit more about who our members are. Interestingly, 45% of our members have been members for less than 5 years. And then almost the same number in the 6 to 20 years and 12% for more than 20 years. I guess I'm in the 12% now. And then what level of career our members identify as. Almost more than twice as many are mid-career and almost equal numbers are early and later career. And I just want to say it's so great to see you all connecting over chat and saying hi to each other. It just makes me so happy to see you all using this as an opportunity to see your friends virtually. As we mentioned, now you might notice if you're a math person that these numbers add up to more than 100%. And that's because, especially in world language, a lot of times we're wearing multiple hats. So we have 65% in K-12 settings, 48% in higher ed, some might be in a little bit of both, 4% in government, industry, and business, and then a few who represent community and weekend schools. And what are we known for? Don't forget, proposals are due this week for our convention in Philadelphia, the city of sibling love, in November. We're known for the ACTFL proficiency guidelines, for the world readiness standards, as well as for our journal, Foreign Language Annals, and of course, our magazine, The Language Educator. And I just want to mention a little bit about ACTFL's strategic plan for those of you who don't have it committed to memory. And we believe that good language program evaluation can contribute to all levels, all parts of the ACTFL strategic plan, from advocacy and outreach, conveying the information you get from a program evaluation to advocate for your program, diversity, equity, and inclusion, using a program evaluation to look at who's taking languages and making sure that all of our students are included, professional learning. Program evaluation can be a great way to identify what kind of professional learning we need as teachers or administrators and so on. Research, notice research is fourth so that I don't talk about it for too long. Program evaluation research is super important and can really contribute to the canon we have. Finally, teacher recruitment and retention. If you can identify where the needs are in the field, we can look at ways that we can not just recruit more teachers, but figure out ways to retain them in a program evaluation. I've done program evaluations where some of the things I found that were frustrating to teachers, administrators kind of scratched their heads and said, I think we can do that. So, and now we're going to, this super fun slide. And we're going to go back to Celia.
So now we'll want to hear from you a little bit. So when we talk about program evaluation, and again, this is why we have like this very introduction to what program evaluation is and isn't, we want to hear from you about what you think program evaluation is. So we're going to pause for a minute. Don't put anything yet. So when we say go, what we want you to do is to finish this sentence. Program evaluation is, and then let us know what you think program evaluation is. So ready, set, go. What do you think program evaluation is? And then we will look over the chat to see what you respond and see how many kind of patterns we see come about. Stressful. Yep, absolutely. All right. Taking the temperature. A way to measure how effective a program is. Rewarding to see how we're doing. Absolutely. To see what's working, what isn't working. Very good. The robustness of a program. Oh, they're coming in so fast. Meg, are you catching some of them?
I really like the one that says taking stock and the systemic evaluation and helping programs grow. Those, I stuck on the stressful one for a while, I'll confess.
Identifying strengths and weaknesses, absolutely. The usefulness, looking at your goals.
Sharing the goal with the colleagues. I love that one.
Absolutely. So again, it's really, what would be a really good exercise is as we're talking to kind of scroll up and see which ones match with what you thought, which ones are different. Do you see any patterns? Definitely, we keep seeing the words evaluate, growth, taking stock. Yes, absolutely. It could absolutely be rare in world language programs, especially when a lot of people think that it costs so much money, or when you have to really go outside and take so many, get a consultant or get a lot of different consultants to come in and do this. And that's why we're really trying to make sure that we teach and empower you how to be able to start this process within your own program, or at the very least, kind of take stock of what you have and see the importance as to why. Because what ends up happening a lot of times is not enough buy-in from your programs because they don't see the value of program evaluation. They just think it's a way to evaluate you, check off a box, and that's it. So let's talk a little bit now about what program evaluations are and what they aren't, because we do want to make sure that we have enough time for some questions at the end. So I will turn this over to Meg to start us off.
Great. And just a little teaser, there will be an article coming out in ACTFL's Journal Foreign Language Annals pretty soon on a K-12 survey of world language program evaluation. So let's talk about some uses for program evaluation, some facts and some myths. The truth is program evaluation can be employed for a variety of uses. And so a lot of the misconceptions about it stem from a misunderstanding of the appropriate uses for language program evaluation, and sometimes about the specific uses of for a program evaluation. So let's look at facts and myths. So one of the uses, as so many of you put in the chat, it's a systematic approach. And it is not supposed to be a judgment tool. It's supposed to be, rigorous and systematic. It's also, as so many of you also put in, it's supposed to celebrate success and identify growth opportunities. And it's not supposed to be an instrument of punishment. I also think program evaluation can really help a program determine if its goals match its mission. Are we aiming for something that's doable and that fits with our mission, and are we on the right track? And the purpose of a program evaluation is not for evaluators to come in and revamp a program.
And then
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I think it's you, right?
Okay, yeah, but I don't know if you wanted to add something.
No, I was just very excited.
So coming from a K-12 background myself, and then also having been at the university level, I do know that we are so desynthesized to evaluations, and we're constantly being compared to programs and people and classrooms that are so different from ours. So for example, Spanish 4 honors in Miami, Florida, in a Title I school is going to obviously look very different than a Spanish 4 honors in a really wealthy, district in Boston. But yet here we are constantly being compared to this standard that is really unattainable. So when we then look at program evaluation, use the words like assessment and evaluations, we're constantly thinking, oh my gosh, here we go. You're going to compare our program, our small program that could be either a department of one, as I was in my Title I schools. I was the Spanish department in that school. I'm being compared to a department of like 20 Spanish teachers somewhere else with a lot more resources. Absolutely not. That is not what this is. They're all contextualized. So when we're talking about a program evaluation, we're evaluating you to you, and to looking at what your program can do, what your program has access to, and then how we can improve the program, and look at steps or ways to be able to get you to align to your program's mission, vision, and strategic plan. What we sometimes find in program evaluations is that a program doesn't even have a mission or a vision to start off with. So how can you really measure growth? How can you align if you don't even have a mission to where your students should be from the beginning to the end? So all of these programs will be very contextualized to who you are, what you're made up of, what your mission and your visions are, etc. So if you are a Saturday school or an after school program teaching Gujarati, you're not going to be compared to a massive Spanish program at the higher ed level. All of these are contextualized, and this is why it's so important to empower our educators to be able to do this as well. Yes, you would actually be surprised who would want to be in a program with no clear mission, but a lot of times this is never communicated. And in fact, when I've talked to programs and said, well, what is your mission? They just kind of shrug and said, are we supposed to have one? Which is really interesting because I guess they just assume that the mission is to learn the language, but that can look so different, right? I mean, learning a language is absolutely one of the things you should do in a program, but there's so much more to it than that. So it really is being able to meet you where you are and look at how you need to grow. So then I will pass it over to Meg again. Oh, no, just kidding. It was still me. Sorry, it was not, the screen was not moving. And of course, we're, as I mentioned, we're accounting for specific populations. So for me, one of my the main platforms that I work with are heritage language learners and heritage language programs. In fact, the very, very first language program evaluation that I did was for an after-school heritage language program in Virginia. And of course, when we're looking at that program evaluation, again, it's very specific to that population and what they need. So their needs as a heritage language program or a less commonly taught language program will be very different in terms of what their resources need, of what their teachers need to be able to get in terms of professional development, what their goals are in terms of, are they taking standardized tests? Is the goal to be able to get them to connect back to their culture, to participate more and give back to the community? One of the programs that I looked at, one of their main goals was to make sure that these students who are now aligning and learning their language and their culture come back and act as mentors to the continuous, the continual generation, so that now this program is a cycle. And then as students graduate from the program, they come back and serve as mentors, so that now you have a much wider outreach of the community. That is what one of their major goals were. And that's what we evaluated them on to see how we can get them there. So obviously another program, like a French program, may not necessarily have those outcomes and those goals. So each one is going to take into account who their participants are, who their stakeholders are. They are not just going to be based off of this standard for the entire population or the entire country. Okay, and then of course, they're intended to help a program determine to the extent which it's meeting its goals, not just a one size fits all, as we were talking about. Yep, and then Joy is there. Joy Payne is actually the one that helped me do my first program evaluation. So thank you, Joy, for the shout out. And then I will turn it over to Meg.
And one thing that I think often comes out is that any language entity can conduct a program evaluation. I really like what Naomi said about a program evaluation helping everybody share the same goals. And I think that's a great way of looking at it. Sometimes in a small program or a big program, you might not be on the same page about what the goals are. And a program evaluation can be a great way to remind yourself, like getting back to Celia's point, if part of the goal is to bring in, graduates and alums to work with students to be mentors, that has to be evaluated along with other parts of the program if that's part of the mission. But getting back to this slide, a community-based program can be evaluated, a Saturday program, a heritage program, a summer camp after school. All of these things can be part of a program evaluation. And I think sometimes we think only large, well-resourced or credit-bearing programs need to be evaluated. Language is always worth evaluating. Oh, I'm going to put that on a t-shirt. Okay. And it's not always for well-funded programs. One of the things that Celia and I are trying to do with this is to help you do some of your own program evaluation. Of course, if you have the funding to bring in external reviewers, please do. Take some stuff off your own plate. But you can do a lot of it yourself.
Exactly. And just to add to Meg's point, if you can do a large chunk of the work so that what you outsource is, for example, a psychometrician if you need it, or a consultant to look over your work, or be able to outsource the next steps in terms of having professional development, then that's already, you're saving a lot of that budget for the bigger things that you can outsource, but then be able to make it a collaborative process within your own department, because as when we have seen, when there is buy-in from your entire department or your entire program, it tends to have higher rates of success because everyone wants it to work instead of having this outsider come in and then people feel, as Meg had previously mentioned, that it's punitive or that someone is after your job. Sorry, Meg, continue.
No, absolutely. So we will be conducting an institute this summer, which is an introduction to program evaluation. And we just want to emphasize that I have been working with program evaluation, well, for longer than some of you have been alive, since 1994. Oh my gosh, that's 30 years. Holy cow. And I'm still learning. So it will give you an introduction to what it is, an introduction to some tools, but it's not going to be a one and done like any great thing in life. So we're going to conduct a comprehensive approach to evaluation. And with this lens of heritage, considering the needs of learners and teachers, I think one of the hardest things about heritage is people who don't know anything about heritage learners think that they are this homogeneous population. Spoiler alert, they are not, right? And so we'll be looking at K-12 heritage programs. We're going to look at higher ed and program evaluation, community, and other. And what we really want to look at is administrators, parents, other stakeholders, and what are their requirements and what capabilities and capacities are brought to these programs. And we really want to highlight the values of the discipline of evaluation. Evaluation is a huge discipline, and language program evaluation can learn a lot from the greater discipline. And actually, they have a lot to learn from us too. And what we really want you to do when you're thinking about designing a program evaluation is not only how is the program working, but what is its impact? How does it contribute to the local and wider society? And with heritage learners, that's particularly, resonant, I think. And also how it fits into its specific language program. So we're really psyched for this because we are both, heritage language program fans, and we'd really like to make it super useful for all of you who are working with heritage learners. And remember, there can be heritage learners in a program, even if the program isn't exclusively focused on heritage learners. So this is something we have to consider when we're conducting a program evaluation. Who are the different contributors to the program? What are their backgrounds, and how can the program evaluation make sure that we're valuing all of them?
So I want to thank Celia and Meg one more time for all of the great information that they have presented and their insights into program evaluation. And we want to thank all of you for attending, and we wish you all a lovely afternoon, and we hope to see you at the Summer Institute this year or at another CARLA event in the future. Thanks a lot. Take care, everybody.